Well, hey, everybody. It is Monday night. That's right. It's Monday night. It's the 17th of April, and I'm so grateful to have you with us on this evening and joining me on tonight. I tell you, I'm always excited on Monday nights when we get a chance to come and to talk with you and just share with you on Monday nights. And it is Check In Monday. We've been doing this a while, y'all. I think it's been about 4 or 5 years now we've been doing this. So it is a good thing. And so we're just grateful to have you with us on this evening, on this Check-In Monday. Do me a favor, if you're here, if it's your first time being with us on Check-In Monday, just say first time, put it in the comments, say first time. If you've been here before, just say back again and do this for me. Everybody do this for me. That's right. Like and share, and let's share it with someone and let them be a part of this on this evening. Well, it is good to have all of you here, and I just want to say I want those of you to connect with us and connect with me. Let me pull that up. You can connect with us and connect with me here. Here you see where you can do the connections. All of my connections on social media. I am on social media almost everywhere. It's hard not to find me on social media. You can find me on social media. You see it. And so please, by all means, connect with me on social media. And you see where it says, let's stay connected. I would love to get your email address or your phone number. So whenever I'm coming live or doing whatever, I can text it to you or email it to you, and you can be informed of what we're doing. All right. Well, it's good to have all of you. I see you as you are coming in, and let's look and see. All right, we've got Sister Austin here, and Sister Whitehurst. God bless you. Thank you so much, and thank you for your generous offering. Also, want to appreciate you for doing that. All right. Well, let's get into what I want to talk about tonight, very brief, and let's do this real quickly tonight and just share with you on this evening. Hey, Sister Adams, good to see you. Let's share with you tonight. I want to talk to you tonight about something that just been on my heart and on my mind this week, or the latter part of last week, and I want to share it with you tonight, and that is that life is a two-way journey, and you've got to be careful how you travel through this life. You got to be careful how you go through. And I want to just sort of give you some that maybe is thought-provoking tonight. And those of you that are watching and those of you that will watch, that's just sort of thought-provoking that of how life is and what life is all about. And life is really a two-way journey. I know there are a lot of people that don't believe that, but life is a journey that everybody has to travel on in their lifetime. I don't care who you are, you've got to travel through this journey called life, and you've got to understand that it's not sometimes what we think it is or what it has been presented or painted to be, but it is a journey that we have to take. It is a journey that we go through life, understanding that is a journey, and understand that no one travels through this journey, this two-way journey of life alone. A lot of people, they sort of feel that they're alone in what they do and they travel alone, but you don't. When you go through this life, you are not by yourself, neither do you travel alone. And I'm not just talking about being married or single. I'm not talking about being married. I'm not talking about being single, but I'm talking about just going through this life and through this journey called life, which is a two-way journey. You see people and you go through this journey. And I didn't say that you go through this life with people. You go through this life, of course, with people, whether you're married or single. But at the same time, you've got to go through this life by yourself or you got to go through this life with people. You connect with people, you see people, you meet people as you go. And so you don't get to travel this life by yourself. Someone said, well, I'm single, so I don't have anybody. I'm not talking about being married. I'm not talking about being single. You don't get to travel this life by yourself. I didn't say you get with people. I said there's a difference between you traveling with by yourself, whether single or married, and then traveling just meeting with people. It's a two-way journey. What do you mean two-way journey? This thing called life, it's a road. It's not a one-way street. And those of you that have ever traveled and been on a one-way street, the traffic only flows in one direction. It does not flow in two or three different directions. It flows one way, and you go through that one way. But whenever there is a two-way, whenever there's traffic coming in opposite directions, then that's a two-way. And on those roads, you especially have to be careful how you travel on those roads. I remember before they made it possible going to Memphis, when we would drive to Memphis, there was a stretch that when you got to Alabama, Birmingham, that you got on a road, and it was a two-way highway, and you passed those big trucks coming and going, and you traveled, and you saw people going in both directions, and you had to be extremely careful on those roads because of the way it was. It was narrow. It wasn't a big highway. And if you made the slightest error or turn, you may end up having a head-on collision, or you may end up somewhere over in a ditch. It just all depends. So you had to be very careful how you traveled on that two-way road. Now, on the one-way highway, you can switch lanes and do all this stuff because there's nothing coming in your direction, in the opposite direction. Everything is flowing the same way. And sometimes we believe that life, we've been sort of convinced that life is this one-way thing. And we're just going to go one way. We're not going to have no opposition. We're not going to have anything. But you got to understand that life itself is a two-way road. It's a two-way journey. You don't get to go in one direction only. You go in a direction where you meet people as you travel in the opposite direction. And we need to understand that sometimes, when you go through life, you're going to meet people that are going in the opposite direction from where you're going or where I'm going. Everyone's not going in the same direction. And sometimes we make the mistake of trying to make everybody go in the same direction, and everyone does not go in the same direction. You can't make everybody go in the same direction. We get upset with people because they ain't going in the same direction. But life is two-way. You just don't, it's not just that one way. You meet people going and coming. It's a two-way road. It's a two-way street. And you've got to understand that when you do and understand that, you come out better because you understand that there are things that will come. People will come in an opposite direction. Don't mean that they're different, don't mean anything, but everyone has a two-way journey. Everyone has the path, but everybody and nobody travels the same pathway. So everyone travels a different way. Everyone has a different route. Everyone has a different journey, sometimes on the same road, but it's a two-way thing. And we need to adjust to understand, never let people put you and make you feel that the only way that you must go, you got to go in their direction. This thing is more than one way. It's a two-way travel. Oh, if you don't believe it, just check life out. It goes two ways. Every day it goes two ways. It's something that where we get sort of off at is we sort of believe that if I go this just one way, and if you go one way, that means there's sometimes you're going to miss something because you're just going in that one direction. Even on the highway, that you're going in the same direction, and it's one way on this side, west or east, west, or west, south. If you're going in that, if you're going in that direction and stuff, even when you're on the highway, sometimes you need to get off that highway and get off the exit and cross over the bridge so you can get back on, because maybe you missed an exit. But understand that there's sometimes God allows us to be on what we call that two-way, where we're journeying through life and we're going through this life, but it's a two-way thing. It's not one way. And we have to learn to adjust to two ways. And we've got to be careful. And I said to you, I've seen people be involved in accidents naturally because they did not know how to deal with two lanes. They were great on the highway, but they were no good with the two lanes. And I've been, when I traveled with my uncle, we drove everywhere. So the two lanes, we went through not only two lanes. I tell you the most, I guess what I would call the most terrifying experience that I've ever had on a two lane was this. When I first traveled with my uncle, we went to a place called, I think it was White River. I think it was White River, Arizona. We were going to the Indian reservation, and we had to go through what is called the Grand Canyon, or not the Grand Canyon, but a canyon. And you had to go up this steep thing, and the roads were so narrow. I mean, going in both directions, they were so narrow, and you went up this hill, and it was a winding thing. And if you were in the car or in the van, you could look, and if you made the slightest error on this thing, you could end up at the bottom of that canyon. I'm not talking about a small thing. I'm talking about way up. I mean, we were way up there, and we were just creeping. And I remember one time I had to drive on this thing, and I was driving slow, and cars passing. You ever seen those things on sometimes on land where they show where the thing is so narrow, look like you almost want to touch each other? That's what we were driving on. And we did that many years until we found a back way to get to where we needed to go. But we traveled that, and it was just amazing. It was absolutely something that I hated to even go that direction. I hated to go that way. I was like, oh my Lord, I didn't want to do it. I didn't. But that was the only way to get in, and that was a two-way. And so if we were going to get to our destination, we had to travel that route. And sometimes we've got to understand that we've got to travel a certain route and a certain way that's two-way in this life. And we can't get around it. But now, even though we've got to travel that way, the point that I want to make to you tonight is you've got to be careful how you travel in this journey. It's two ways, but you got to be careful how you travel in it. What is the first thing I want to tell you about it? Being careful how you travel with it. I want to tell you the first thing you got to do is you've got to travel, and don't travel recklessly. All right? Don't be like most people today. You see people today, they travel recklessly, and with these new cars they got, they run up on the back of you almost, and just almost clip you and going in and out recklessly. And then people coming in the opposite direction instead of, the yellow line. I don't know what it means everywhere else, but the yellow line, two thick yellow lines, mean do not pass. Do not pass. That's what they mean. Don't pass. But I've seen people that couldn't wait, and they had a blind spot, couldn't see over the hill, but they were in such a hurry that they went around and past the double yellow lines, and almost had a head-on collision, and in many cases people were killed because they didn't see the other car coming. And so what ended up happening is you had casualties because people didn't understand that the line says, don't drive recklessly. Don't pass this place. Now, there may have been a spot where you could pass. And when you see those lines, different ones, if you went to driving school, you know what those lines mean. That means you can pass at this section. But over here, when you see those lines, it says that means do not pass. And sometimes we've got to be careful that we don't go recklessly through this thing called life. And when I mean recklessly, we go through being reckless and in not doing the right things we should do, not doing the things we ought to do, and we're reckless in the way we go through life. And you can't afford, I want to tell you something, you can't afford to go through life being reckless. You can't afford to go through life now. And some of us, we're getting older, you definitely can't afford it. You can't afford to. I'm getting in trouble tonight, but you can't afford to shut some doors and close some doors and do some things. You can't afford to do that. You can't be reckless. You can't just go through life being reckless and doing stuff and saying what you want to say and doing everything. You can't do that. It's a two-way. And I want to tell you that this journey is not one way. If it was one way, you may can get by with it. But other people will be affected by our recklessness. That's why we have to make sure we're not doing things because other people can be affected. Now, you know, when you driving in the car and you may not value your life, that's fine. Sometimes I'm in the car and I'm driving and my wife and daughter and different ones might be in the car and I'm driving and I come up on the light and I'm not really close to the light, but I'm close enough and the light turns yellow. And so I'll slow down and stop. And they said, oh, you should have went on through the light. And you know what my response is? I probably would have went through the yellow light if I was by myself. But because you all are in here and you all are precious, I won't go through the light. I'll wait. And they start laughing at that. They think that's funny. But my point is, you know, if it's just you, then you can do that. But if you don't want someone else to be harmed by what we do, then this thing called life that we're traveling this way, we can't be reckless along the way. We got to be mindful of other people. We got to be mindful of other people. Come on. We got to be mindful of other people. We got to do and watch out for other people. Watch this. The second thing is the question that I want to ask you is, what have you learned on this journey? What have you learned? Have we learned anything out of this thing called life? It's a two-way thing, but what have we learned on this journey? Have we picked up anything? Have we learned anything valuable? Have we picked up anything that will cause us to be better or cause us to be productive and fruitful? What are we learning from this? Are we just running through this and at the end come out bankrupt? And when I mean bankrupt, just bankrupt and don't have anything. We just bankrupt and just where we are. What do we do? What are we learning? I mean, actually, what are we actually getting out of this thing called life? Life should be more than just enjoying life. You should be learning as you go through life. Every phase of our lives, we should be learning something. Both ways, coming and going. We should be learning something. We should be picking something up. We shouldn't be going through this life. You shouldn't be at 50 and hadn't learned too much. You shouldn't be at 60 or 70 and ain't learned too much. You shouldn't be at 40 and ain't learned too much. You should have learned something by now that's going to sustain you, something that's going to help you, something that's going to value you. And not just, everybody says we got to speak positive. I got it. I believe we should. But I also believe we got to learn some stuff because there's some things that God allows us to experience, that we go through, that we learn how to deal with life itself. And you got to ask yourself, what have I learned? Have I learned anything? Just take some time and stop and ask yourself, at this age, what have I learned? Have I learned anything this year? Have I learned anything? I have to tell y'all, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna just say it. I'm gonna put it out there. It may make somebody upset, but let me just put it out there anyway. I really wonder, did we learn anything from the pandemic? I ask myself that all the time. Did we learn anything from the pandemic? Was anything learned during the pandemic? Did we individually, did we as church, did we as society, did we learn anything during the pandemic? And this is just my assessment. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm just talking about my assessment. From what I gather, I don't think we learned too much. I don't. That's me. Reason I don't think we learned too much, because we had a lot of devastation during the pandemic. We had people dying that, this just got sick and died. People end up in the hospital and didn't come out. People end up, and even folk that had COVID, still dealing with the long haul of it. And I read something the other day, somebody 2 years after they had it is still dealing with it, all of those things. And I wonder, did we learn anything from it? Because it seems like that as society and even as church and everybody else, it seems like we have went back to business as usual. And I'm going to get out of here shortly. We look like we went back to business as usual. I mean, I know we out the mask, most people, but we back to business as usual. We're doing stuff basically the same way we did it before the pandemic. The pandemic sort of closed us down, got our attention a little bit, but then after it was over, we back to business as usual, acting the same way, treating people the same way, acting silly, acting crazy, acting petty. Same way. Ain't learned anything. What did we learn from the pandemic? That should have been a teaching moment for all of us to understand that we should have learned something, to the extent, if anything, we should have learned you can be here today and gone today. I took a whole different look at life after the pandemic. After I got sick with COVID, I mean, I came out the hospital, and to this day, I look at things differently. I don't look at stuff the same way. I don't look at people the same way. I look at things differently because it was a moment for me. It was one of those moments that caught my attention, because you have to understand, I had never been sick in my life. I had never been in the hospital. Never. When I say never, I mean never. I hadn't been in the hospital. I had never been in the hospital. No more than I broke my ankle and I didn't, nothing going on. I was fine. But I was in there 10 days, hooked up to all this stuff, and the doctor talking about ventilators and 3 weeks and I'm laying there going, Lord, let me get up out of here. And then got home and was still feeling the effects of it. Listen, let me tell you something. It was a moment that I understood. I was on the one-way street and everything was going good. But now I'm on this two-way street. And now this opposition is coming against me. I'm going the opposite direction. I'm feeling the effects of this thing. And what did I learn from it? It should have made me better instead of making me bitter. And some of us, we have to understand most people, in my estimation, we didn't learn anything from the pandemic. We are back to business as usual. Same attitudes, acting crazy, same old way we've been doing stuff, mishandling people, not treating people right. So, what have you learned on this journey? How have you treated people on your journey? So, a lot of us, we want to, everyone says everybody's against me. Some people are not against you. They're not. It's just the fact of how you've acted and how you treated people. See, because what you got to understand is you can't treat people any kind of way and then expect them to do all the stuff that you think they should do. And you just can't do that. I mean, and we got to treat people with respect, and that's whether it's church or corporate or whatever. You got to always treat people right, and you've got to learn when you're dealing with stuff. You don't mishandle people. And sometimes in this journey called life, we are too petty. I know I ain't gonna get a lot of help tonight, but we are very petty. To be saved, we are petty. To say we love God, we are petty. To say we even a Christian society, we are petty. When I look at, and I'm gonna say this, when I look at the politicians, when we talk about Republicans and Democrats, they not after what's best for the people. They will fight over anything that they don't agree with, or they don't say they can't agree. They just gonna fight over it. And sometimes we're like that. We haven't learned in this journey called life is two ways. Everyone doesn't go in the same direction. Everyone doesn't think the same way. And we haven't learned too much. We gotta stop being petty. And we have to be careful how we travel this thing, because always remember, it may come back up again. How we do people, how we treat people. Got to be careful how you go through it. I try my best to treat people the way I want to be treated. Try to treat them with respect. Try to treat them right. Try to do things right. That's what I try to do. But sometimes that doesn't always come back to you. And sometimes you can reach out to people, and if things were wrong or whatever, sometimes you can reach out to people and try to make them right. And you can tell by the way they respond, they don't want to make nothing right. And so you have to go through, and it's important to treat people the right way. It's important to do that. And remember, it may come back up again. Now, let me say this. You got to be careful how you treat people, because you never know who you're going to need before it's over. Joseph's brothers didn't know they were going to need him before the deal went down. So you got to be careful. Let me get out of here. I want to tell you this. Be careful how you travel this road, this journey. Be careful how you travel it on your way to the top, because people going to the top. But you be careful how you travel the journey on your way to the top, because sometimes the same people that you do wrong on your way to the top, you got to meet the same people on your way back down. So it's important that you that you treat people correctly. Don't go to the top and go to acting crazy. Don't feel I have arrived. I don't do that. You may be on top today, but you got to remember something. That things, if you don't remember anything else I tell you tonight, on this this journey, it's a two-way. It's not a one-way. You're going, but you got to remember that one thing you always got to keep in your mind is that I got to treat people right, because I never know. I may be on top today, but it don't always mean I'm gonna be on top. And you got to remember, because this is the two-way journey, and the journey of life, you got to remember and tell yourself that things can change at any given moment. All right, I'm going to leave y'all alone. I said things can change at any given moment. You can be in the best of health, and it could change just like that. Oh, take my word on it. You can be in the best of health, and it can change just like that. Oh, listen, I got to tell you, I've always been a healthy person, best of health. Then haven't had no issues, and was doing fine, and end up in the hospital. Like, how in the world did I get in here? You can be in the best of health, and things can change. I've had friends that were in the best of health, and just look like overnight, things change. You can have all the money you need in life, and all of a sudden things can change. And so you got to learn to go through this life the right way, doing people right, because things can change. We look at, and we're praying for the actor, comedian and actor Jamie Foxx, but look how quick things can change. I just had a pastor friend of mine that was used on my lives on Mondays and Bible studies out of Oklahoma. I was going through my thing last week, and I was like, "What in the world? Whoa. And got in touch with his cousin, and he said, "Yeah, he passed away that Thursday. He was 43 years old." Things can change so quickly. That's why we gotta change our mindset on how we go through life and how we do things, how we do people, how we treat circumstances, how we go through. We gotta change the way we do stuff. We gotta stop. And I'm gonna say this, and I know it may not be what people like to hear, but I like telling the truth. We gotta stop mishandling people and thinking it's okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? We got to stop mishandling people and thinking that it's okay. We got to cut that out. You gotta stop mishandling people and thinking that it's okay, and then go somewhere and laugh about it. Can't do that, because you just never know where you're gonna end up and what's gonna happen. So life is a two-way journey. It's a two-way street. And you got to deal with it as you go through it. But at the same time, you need to say to yourself, I gotta make sure that I'm learning from this, and that I'm doing the right things, and that I'm treating people right, and doing things. You can't keep doing the same things. And I'm closing, but I do want to ask you to think about that, and ask yourself, and just take a look and see that we really on this journey. God allowed us to go through and allowed some things to happen, I believe. And did we really go through this thing and learn anything? I believe sometimes we miss in life a teachable moment. Sometimes God's trying to show us, and we miss it because we're so caught up in the other stuff. And you got to learn, somebody said, well, the Lord, God ain't going to let you go nowhere He wants you to live. I believe that, but I also believe that we got a part in that. And it's you gotta stay healthy. You gotta you can't eat the wrong stuff and then believe God to keep you healed. You eating all the wrong stuff and then praying for God to heal you. That makes no sense. Do your part, and he'll do his part. But don't eat the wrong stuff. Don't do the wrong stuff. Don't do stuff like that and then say, well, Lord's gonna do it. No, you got to do what's right. And we got to know that this thing called life is a journey. It's a two-way thing. It goes in both directions. And we got to learn how to be careful as we travel on this road. Be careful how you, for some reason, I don't know, I just feel like saying this, and it may be for somebody, maybe somebody need to hear this. Be careful how you treat people. Be careful how you do people. I'll close with this, and my uncle said this, so I'm not saying anything, and he's deceased, but I'm telling what he said. My uncle had an uncle named Anthony. We call him Bud. That's what everybody called him. And he lived at the house with me, my grandmother, my uncle. And my uncle's always traveling, but, my uncle Gene, he was traveling. But he came home, and my uncle Anthony, he had a disagreement with my mother. And so my uncle had bought him a bed. My uncle had bought him a bed in the house. And so, and my uncle was buying the house or leasing the house or whatever. So he put him out and took his bed down and said, "You can't come back in here." And my uncle Anthony was he could sing them old hymns like the Baptist deacons. And he got out there and just started singing in the yard. He didn't leave the house and just started singing in the yard. And my grandmother, that touched her. And so she told my uncle, "You got to let him back in his house." So he let him back in. And he told this story himself. He said when he got sick and had a hole in his lungs, and he was in the hospital for many days, he said the person that came every day to the hospital to see me, the person that came every day to the hospital to make sure I was okay, was the one I had put out the house and took his bed down. Now that's what he said, which gives us to understand you got to watch it. I know fame and celebrity status and all that stuff, but stop looking down on what you think are little people, because that little person may be the person that have to take care of you after a while. And so stop doing that. Don't do it. Go through this life, learn the lesson, learn to treat everyone right, learn to treat everyone with respect, with dignity, and then you'll be better. But you got to learn that. And you got to make sure you take care of that. Learn something from what we've been through. It's a two-way street. All the positive side of all this is wonderful. But that other side can be negative, and you have to learn something from that also. A good person learns from the positive and the negative. And I've told y'all many times, y'all have heard me say this many times, I'm going to say it again, and you can see it. I'll do this again, and y'all see that? Those are batteries in this remote control. But guess what? When you take these batteries out of this remote control, you see that right there? There's a negative. See that? Negative. And there's a positive. And guess what? When you put them in, you can't put the batteries in with both positives the same way. You got to put them in the opposite direction for this thing to work. And that's how life is designed. It comes with positive and negative. And you got to put them in and make it work. We learn from the negative and the positive. I know everyone wants to just act like we just learn from the positive, but we learn from the negative also. That's why the writer said it was good for me that I've been afflicted. He didn't say it was good for me that I've been blessed. He didn't say it was good for me that I've been anointed. He said it was good for me that I've been afflicted, that I may learn thy statutes. It was good for me that I've been afflicted. Not good for me that I've been anointed. Not good for me that I'm on top of the mountain. It was good for me that I've been afflicted. All right. I'm going to get out of here on that one. I'm going to get out of here on that one. So I pray and trust y'all got something tonight. Please do me a favor, like and share. Share this with somebody. And let's go through this life. Let's learn something from all this stuff that's going on. Let's keep learning, y'all. Let's keep growing. Let's keep getting better. And let's treat people right and do people right and try to do the right things. My wife said to me the other day, she said, what's going on with you? Because there's some people that did some things to me, and they know they did it. And instead of even, lashing back out at them, and everyone uses this social media piece to go after people. I could have done that, but I didn't do it. And this has been maybe about over a year ago. I didn't do it. I didn't lash out at him. I didn't do any of that. Matter of fact, when I saw him, I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And went on. They knew, they could tell it was something that was done, and they apologized, but they never wanted to know what it was they done. Okay, so I didn't, that has never been discussed, but I just learned that it's two-way. People go in the opposite direction. You can't look for people always to do to you and towards you like you do toward them. It just don't happen all the time. Sometimes you got to go and you got to just do what you do. And I never forget, I learned so much with my uncle and traveling with him. He says, not how you treat people. It's not how they treat you, should I say, but it's how you treat them in return. And that's true. It's not how they treat you, but it's how you treat them in return. Somebody has got to be the grown up. Oh, Lord, let me get out of here. That's funny. Somebody's got to be the grown up. Somebody has to be the grown up. And so it's not how they treat you. It's how you treat them in return. All right? So you keep on treating them right. You ain't got to worry about it. It'll be all right. Because somewhere down the line, God will do what needs to be done. And you'll be fine. All right? All right. I'm through now. Let's pray. Father, I thank you and I praise you for those that are watching, those that will watch. I pray that you bless them, God. Help us to know that this thing called life is a two-way journey. It's a two-way road. It's a two-way street. God, we're traveling sometime in opposite directions, going and coming. But we pray that you give us the wisdom how to travel and to be careful as we travel and to do the right things as we go. God, not to be reckless, not to be ones that treat people indifferent and handle people the wrong way. Help us to learn lessons that will benefit our walk with you, benefit our lives, and benefit our growth and maturity in life. And we'll give your name praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, the Lord bless you, and the Lord keep you. Thank you for joining me. The Lord's will, we'll be back here next Monday for Check-In Monday. And I pray and trust that the Lord will bless you. Don't forget, like, share, and don't forget, do this. Please, by all means, follow me on social media on The Peace, and let's connect when we're sharing things with you and things that are interesting. Well, the Lord bless you and the Lord keep you tonight. Thank you so much. We're going out of here tomorrow night. It's possible we will be doing Bible study. If we will, you'll see me at 7 o'clock. If not, we got a meeting that we got going on, and I've got to be in attendance, but we'll see how that works out. All right. Well, the Lord bless you and the Lord keep you is my prayer. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I pray that God's favor will rest upon you this week. The Lord bless you, I pray that all of God's choice blessings will be yours.